Parsha we learn on Shabbos, the Parshas Meraglim. Find that there's a real fascinating hemshech. Torah, Baruch Shalom says the terrible Nevuah. Moshe Rabbeinu, Chayom Ben Hashem, Bamidbar Hazeh, Yiplu Figreichem, V'chol Pikudechem, Chol Misparchem, Im Atem Tavoyu Ha'aretz, Etapchem Asher Martem, Upigreichem Atem a second time, Yiplu Bamidbar Hazeh, Pigreichem V'nosnu Atoim Pigreichem Bamidbar, one after the other, the Rebbeinu Shalom, wrath, Yochel. Bamidbar Hazeh Yitamu V'shom Yomusu, so many different times. Then we have the story of the Mapilim. Moshe begs them, don't go. Behiloi Sitzloch. And then, when we finish with this parsha, comes the two parshas, one of Nesachim, Kisavoyu Al Eretz Moshe V'Seichem, and one of Chala. Vayachem Al Eretz Asher Ani Mevi Eschem Sham. It's the Ramban, a little bit different in the Benu Bechai, Arachayim. All have that. Why is this parsha here? So it's to be mechazik the Dora Midbar. Bechai says it's even the children who are going to go into Eretz Yisrael, to be mechazik them that they will go in. There's going to be mitzvahs, there's going to be nesachim, there's going to be challah, they're going to go into Eretz Yisrael. The Ramban says it's going on the fathers who are going to die. The Torah is telling them that your children are going to make it. Fathers were scared that maybe because the Gemara says it's contingent on their being not falling back on the maisim of the Meraglim. But Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them that they're going to go into Eretz Yisrael, and we're giving you now the mitzvah of Nesachim and the mitzvah of Chala, which is based on going into Eretz Yisrael, and that's a Tanchum. The Tana Dvei Eliyahu says on the following, on the pasuk, it's the pasuk by Yisablu on the Yoid. By Yedaber Moshe, right before the Mapilim, by Yedaber Moshe Sadvarim Ma'ela Kol B'nei Yisrael, by Yisablu Ha'am Me'oid. And after this pasuk, Rebbeinu Shalom told Moshe Rabbeinu, go be Meratze Eso Aniyim Ha'elam, the Klal Yisrael, the Dor Meraglim, Asher Libam Yotza Aleim. Their heart left them. Yotza Mei Aleim. They lost their hearts completely. Go ahead and be Meratze them, give them back their chiyus. So Moshe asks them, Bameh, but what should I be Meratze them? How could I console them? What should I give them? So the Rebbeinu Shalom told them, B'divrei Torah. Go be Meratze them and give them Divrei Torah. And the Divrei Torah is going to somehow bring them back to their leif, bring their leif back to them. And that's the parsha of Kisavoyu. That's the parsha of Nesach. So I saw that this is the psukim, Torah Hashem Tmima, Neshivas Nofesh, that Torah has this ability that even when there is an Avda Nefesh, Torah is a Meshivas Nofesh. Torah is also, Medrash says in Shir Hashirim, Torah is a Tanchumin. Because it says in Tehillim, Tanchumecha Yisha'ashu Nafshi. And that Tanchumecha goes on Divrei Torah. Tanchumecha Yisha'ashu Nafshi. And it says in Eicha, by the Churban. So it says, Alayla ani boichia, eini yardu mayim, and it says there a pasuk, ki rochak mimeni menachem meishiv nafshi. Alayla ani boichia, eini yardu mayim, ki rochak mimeni menachem meishiv nafshi. O yubonai shemeim ki gova aroyev. What does this mean? So they say that this could mean what it says in the next kapitel. Malka v'soreha bagoyim ein Torah. That with the Golus, there was a bittul Torah. The Gemara says in Chagiga, they're getting chased out in Eretz Yisrael. Was ein Torah, a bechina of ein Torah, even though they went to Bavel with the Choresh v'hamazger. That was something for Bavel, but for Klal Yisrael, it's a different level. Ein Torah. And if it's Ein Torah, it's Ruchak Mimeni Menachem Meishiv Nafshi. Because one of the attributes of Torah Gdoisha is that Torah is a Meishiv Nefesh. Torah has that ability of Meshivas Nefesh. Torah has that ability of Tanchumecha Yishashu Nafshi. We all know the pasuk. Even when I'm such a despondent situation, I'm nowhere, nothing, I can't find myself. And this is what the Rebbeinu Shalom gave Klal Yisrael. Kipshuta, he's going with the shita that it's going for the door that is going to die. The Midbar Zeh Yutamu, Shom Yamusu, Pigrechem. They still, and later the Mefarshim say their children is Tachas Aveisecha, Yubanecha, and they're the Neichlei Aretz. They're the original Neichlei Aretz because they're the children of these people. It's something to think about. We're witnessing a phenomenon of a renaissance, a resurgence of learning Torah be'iyun and meaningfully among Balabatim who don't represent that surah that you would have expected sometimes from Kavata Itim La Torah and a being a Torah say Keva Malach Torah, people that are in the world and Bali Parnasa and very engaged. But it's a nayat taking root and it spreads. There's a lot of places where there's morning koidelim, people learning with a brand, people learning with a geschmack, gravitating to Torah. Almost, it's becoming habit forming among people. So it became in style, what they call in vogue. But that was verstehen. It's not coming only with a saruta de la Eila. It's that whoever is toyim, meaningful learning, a person lives with the daigas hazman, with all the pressures, with the tirdis. Just lay in Parshas Nosai, the Parsha of Bichas Koyanim. I ask we don't Mekayim the mitzvah of Bichas Koyanim only a few days a year. Neged the Shulchan Aruch, neged the Rambam, neged the Gemara. Kayadua, the Ramah explains it because we don't have times where a person has a leif toif, where he's in a good place. And in order to bench Klal Yisrael, the person has to be in a good mode. And in Golus, and the Tirdas HaParnasa, and all the pressures of life in Golus. This is going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, close to 1,000 years. The Ramah is referring to something that's from before. Only on Yom Tov by Musaf and Yom Kippur do we rise to that moment that we could give Koyanim could do the proper justice of Kosevorchu as Bnei Yisrael Amar Lahem, or like they say, Asher Kiddishon v'Kedushas Shalom B'Hava. It's not so easy. Everybody knows the Gemara in Eruvin. Yecholni lifter is kol ha'olam mikula midin tefila, because the Navi says Zechor Zos Aniyah v'Shikura v'Loi Miyayin. The Yom Shecharev Beis Hamikdash, Klal Yisrael's matzav is never serene enough to be able to say that the person is going to be held accountable for being remiss in proper tefillah. Because we are a b'china of shikura v'loi miyayin. Life in Golus is shikura v'loi miyayin. We don't have to elaborate. A spiritual shikura v'loi miyayin, the temptations, the narishkeiten that tempt us, and the grind, the bonachayim azoyne, the dechak, lachatzenu zu atchak. So the Gemara, we're not going to be held fully accountable for not davening properly. Because Yecholni lifter is kol ha'olam kula midin tefila, because of Miyam Shecharev Beis Hamikdash v'Adatav, because Chor Zos Aniyah v'Shikura v'Loi Miyayin. These are Ikrei Dinim, Pechas Koyanim. So when a person, whatever the Ashgoch is Mesaveh, a beginning of a Dafayomi cycle, whatever, using today's advances of technology, whatever it is that makes it palatable, mitamol a person experiences overnight. Meshivas nafesh, tanchumecha yeshashu nafshi. An island, an oasis of serenity in a turbulent day, in a turbulent week, in a turbulent world. Who wants to give that up? Community. Ganze communities have been transformed because of the power of meaningful learning. I myself, I came into Flatbush 40 years ago. Syrian community. To speak of, it was basically, they're very Syrian Jews, are very violent Jews. Kavit v'talmidei chachamim, tzedakah, supporting Moses HaTorah, but in their lifestyle, they were real America. Co-ed schools. There wasn't 40 years ago. There was mamish a handful of children that were nogeya going to yeshivas. It's a mitzvah. 40 years is a very short period of Zman. And I couldn't learn at home. My wife Ella Shalom was teaching, and the kids were young, and there was a babysitter at home. So I used to learn in the Beis Medrash of HaTorah Torah. And I used to watch Chacham Raful, so like a learning with a group of well-to-do young guys in their 30s, good businessmen, Parnasa, And they're doing Pe'iyum. He was learning with them a sugya b'mara. I don't know what learning, with Chaim Briskes or with Naftali Trucks, but they were learning with Be'iyun. They were learning Oimek Apshat, Asuki Schweitzer. And today their children are in Koivel for who knows how many years already, in the second Madura of Ateret or in the third Madura of Ateret. I see it with my own eyes. There's a Yid here at Tzaddik in Flatbush. Probably, I don't know if Ashkenazim know what's going on in their communities, but as a Yid Rabbi Yedid. A Yid Rabbi Yedid, it was a Gemara Rebbe for many years in Magen David, which is a co-ed school, a co-ed high school. And this Rabbi Yedid little single-handedly took boy by boy, child by child, mishpacha by mishpacha. Has an empire. I was last night at Hassan and Shari Zion, from a Yid that had all his children in co-ed schools 15 years ago. He married off a son in Kolo and Rabbi Diamond's Kolo. And all the younger lights in Rabbi Diamond's Kolo, they're all kids that started in the Magen David Yeshiva 15, 18 years ago. And this Rabbi Yedid single-handedly, and all with Avas HaTorah, sitting and learning and handling and learning and doing and learning. The one that could do Iyun does Iyun, the one that, but they love Torah. How does this happen? 2 summers ago, 2 years ago, I was in Eretz Yisrael on behalf of Pilim. I traveled around to 3 or 4 different towns where Pilim has their pa'ulas at night. What's their pa'ulas? Magichir, comes to a community, learns b'chavrusa with people, learns with a small handful of people, or a shir. In one town, it's what they call Israeli yuppies, if you know what the word means. Up and coming rich people that are not Shem Shabbos, Rabbi Nisayin or HaRav. And they're still not at that time. And they were learning the second Masechta. They learned Megillah and they made a siyum, and they were learning Tainus once a week with some crazy younger man from Kia Sefer who came in to learn with them. How engaged these people that were not yet Shemesh Shabbos, how engaged they were in learning, how engaged they were in Poshet, sitting and learning a Masechta. And I asked them, if they would have a choice right now as they're sitting and learning the Tosfos, if there would be a playoff from their favorite soccer team, would they close the Gemara to go watch the playoff, or they would say, well, I need stupidity? The overwhelming majority said they would stay with the Gemara. They wouldn't go. They wouldn't close. This guy's not Shomer Shabbos yet. So it's not Avodas Hashem. He's not at a point of Avodas Hashem yet. He can't give it up. He can't give up the Rachman al Islam, the Chiloini lifestyle. He's not up to it yet. It's only a short trip till you get there. But the learning. And I had the same thing the next day with little kids, teenagers, that are not from yet. Wow. It's not shy. It's Pashat not shy. Tanchumecha yishashu nafshi. And when there's no Torah in Klal Yisrael, it's Rochoik mimenu minachem meshiv nafshi. Torah Hashem tmima meshivas nafesh. Anan manena abasrayu. If people that are rechoikim and have to cover for such a void in their lives, who are Rachman al-Islam still shakua in chait. Nishtarshu bechet, like the Gemara says in Baba Kama. And afal pikein, you give them the meshivas nafesh of Torah, they wouldn't trade it in for anything. How much that should be ma'over us? V'nacha b'sel chizek, v'nacha b'sel chizek. We look for eitzes, for quality of life. We look for eitzes. for tranquility. What wouldn't a person give for tranquility? To have a tranquil life. Here's tranquility. A blat Gemara. That's the epitome of tranquility. Meshivas nafesh. Tachumecha yeshashu nafshi. And if Chas v'Shalom ain't Torah, is alela ani b'echiyah. Rochek mimeni menachem meshiv nafshi. There's a Tanchuma in Kisavai. That's a little bit of a play on words. That in V'eschanam, Moshe Rabbeinu says that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave him over Torah Shebal Peh. That we should going after the whole Kabbalah Satira, the Aseres Advarim. And then the pasuk says, "Va'isi tziva Hashem ba'esai l'lamed eschem chukim u'mishpatim la'asoischem ma'isam ba'aretz v'tamoivim shomel l'rishta." So Rashi says, Torah Shebal Peh. This is where the Rebbeinu Shalom gave over to Moshe Rabbeinu Torah Shebal Peh, and he was mitzvah Moshe Rabbeinu to teach it to us that we should have the Torah Shebal Peh. But the Torah says, la'asoischem oisam. It's a duplicate lashon. So the Tanchuma in Kisava stellt sich on this. And he says that this is a remes. Not only to do the Torah, learning and doing, but when you learn Torah, the power of Torah Shebal Peh is la'asoischem atem. Torah Shebal Peh gives a person the ability to be reborn, to be remade. Es macht über ein Mensch. Hipshotai. Skula Satorah, the Gdusha Satorah. Barasi loy la'adam yetza hara. Barasi loy Torah tavlin. It could be it's even deeper than that. That power of Teros HaShashuai, of Tachumecha Yeshashu Nafshi, of Neshivas Nafesh, that's Laseis Chematim. It takes a person that's Liboy Cholal Bekirbi, he's empty, he's disconnected, he's floating, and he gets grounded, he gets rooted. Pashut science, the science of Torah. Lasois chemate, machen sich für ein Mensch. And the Chamchim say, wherever it all passes, you want to catch an adolescent, you want to catch a teen, he's struggling miserably with Yiddishkeit. He's rebellious. If you could somehow find a point of connection to unconditional Torah, just Torah, that doesn't obligate you, then everything else is a mamela. You get a person to appreciate what Torah does somehow, what it does to his nefesh, what it does to his whole feelings, then you'll have him. Then on his own, he's going to look at the negatives in life as meaningless, as worthless. Pashas Korach, after the Choylek ala Kahuna, the Rebbeinu Shalom reinforced Kahuna by Aaron Ubanov in two steps. First, the famous Mate Aaron, That's next to Yorin, that the Aaron's mate blossomed. Nisim, it blossomed, Shkedim, Vayigmol Shkedim, Vayotzes Perach. But that was not enough. Even the Pasuk says, Oisi me'olai, Yiskunos b'nei Yisrael, Oislu b'nei Mary. But then there's a second parsha. Va'ani, Rashi says, Loshen Simcha. The Chav Daled Matnos Kahuna is a mashal, Rashi says, to a guy that is selling a field. And the buyer wants a guarantee that there won't be irurim on the field. There won't be complaints. There won't be dintoris. There won't come for litigation. So there's a whole system how you could guarantee it in law and in deed that nobody has the ability to toyin connect. And treating the koyanim in the deferential way of the Chav Daled Matnas Kahuna makes the koyanim untouchable and kacha. All the Rishoyim, the Meshach Kol Adoris, that promise of to be cholik ala kahuna, mamish no, the reformers, the most miserable creatures that Klal Yisrael suffered from. But nobody ever got up and said, he's a kohen, I want to be a kohen. The last one that did that was Kohen. And the guarantee was the Chav Daled Matnas Kahuna. Chav Daled Matnas Kahuna preserves the kahuna and makes the koyanim untouchable. Nobody dreams of being the kohen. In Pirkei Avos state, G'dayla Torah yoisem min hakahuna min hamalchus. Hakuna has Chav Daled, Matonis Kahuna. Malchus comes with 30 milas that a king, that the Torah gave a reigning king. The Shiva and Zachan that a king has is in a different place. And Torah is Memchez Devarim Torah Niklis. From Yeshiva, we remember that Memchez Torah and Torah Niklis B'hem, the Varans Zatzal used to say, it's like a Isha Niknis B'sholish B'shloisha Drachim. That's how you coin a Torah with the 48 things. But then it's not an extension to Gedolah Torah, Yosem and Akunim and Amalchus. Kahuna comes with 24 benefits that reinforce it. Malchus come with 30 privileges that reinforce it. Torah, you have to put in 48 kinyonim to get it. Soktav Yeruchim, no. That I'm going to learn Torah, mit the Torah, you have a schlüssel to the 48 things. Mamish like Kahuna and Malchus. A kohen has 24 matlas kahuna, privileges of matlas kahuna, entitlements. A melech has 30 entitlements. Torah comes with 48 entitlements. Torah brings out in a person all the 48 things that the Mishnah speaks about in Pirkei Avos. Torah is the Meshivas Nafesh. Torah is an Allah Soischem Atem. Torah makes a person rise above himself. I'll call him Isim. Torah is meroim in the human being. To elevate the human being. It's Pashut Bechush. Says Mamish, that's the Torah is Yoisim in HaKahuna, Yoisim in HaMalchus, because it has 48 entitlements instead of 24 and 30. I don't think this is the tzibur where I have to preach about the centrality of Torah in a person's quality of life. But it's negeya for others. An olam that zeicha to such avasat Torah and to such a ruach of avasat Torah should consider themselves ambassadors. Not ambassadors to go out to do kiruv, but to go out and share with others the secret of quality of life. Man boy chaya, that vil leben. Kairos Hashem Tmima Meshivas Nafesh.